Welcome back to Worldwide Reds. What a night at Old Trafford. We haven't done a winning one for a while. I'm excited about this one, boys. Red cards, momentum swings, Casemiro dismissals. The game had everything. It was pissing down at Old Trafford. How are we going? How's your day? Tom's just jumped off, hated, adored, never ignored. We've got Lewis in the house, Elliot's brother. How are you, Elliot? How's
Good,
things? Mate. Welcome, Lewis. Welcome, Tom.
No, thanks for having me back on. Just brings back memories of
G'day there, guys.
beating Chelsea in the rain.
Yeah. We're smiling on a Monday, Tom. We're smiling on a Monday, mate.
Feels a while. It feels a while. Obviously, it feels a while now. Saturday night game. It wasn't at all because it was a 2:30 game. It felt like a Sunday morning game. But just a good way to start a week. Like many talking points, of course. Like we can go in and we can criticise this and that, and I'm sure we will. But just at the end of the day, I think what we're all here for just Manchester United winning games. I don't care what it looks like, and when it happens, we might as well enjoy it because. Look, the evidence suggests it might not last long. We might be having a different discussion next week, so enjoy it while we can.
Lewis, give us your thoughts, mate. Hey, what did you think of the game, Lewis? I think he's frozen.
Oh, look, I think the first thing I said to Elliot, who knows? Anyway, I think the first thing I spoke to Elliot on that Sunday morning, and I said, we deserve to win. We got that red card first thing in the game. We can't deny that, what Casemiro did later on. But we got the 2 goals earlier on. And, it was a scrappy second half. But what you expect, and as you said before, the weather being so torrential, and it was just chaos. So to get to 3 points out of that game, it's like I couldn't be more proud of that team for that game, really. Pull it out. Good to get that win.
Definitely, it was good to see him fighting hard and everything like that. And I think that's what everyone wanted to get out of the game, which is good. It was. I was pleased that the crowd got involved, especially when Garnacho was warming up, and the songs that were coming along with it was really good. Yeah, I think it was an eventful night. Look, like Tom said, we'll break it down and everything like that. And look, from the off, we were in their faces and everything like that. So, and then pressure on the keeper, and Mbumo again gets in behind, first up. And usually we talk about Reds a bit later in the game, but this one was in the first 4 minutes. Sánchez red card. Unbelievable event early in the game.
I think like it was definitely a game of 2 halves, I reckon. Like definitely, just sort of like in comparison to the first half and the second half. But I think, the difference with the game on Sunday versus, probably the other fixtures and the other results that we've had is that we were able to put the ball in the back of the net in the first, sort of 20 minutes, half an hour. And you could see sort of what position that puts us in later on in the game versus when, in the other games this season so far, we've not been clinical in that first 20 minutes, but we've always come out firing. We've just not been able to put the ball in the back of the net, and you can just see the difference in what it's done in I guess, the result at the end of the game, but also sort of the confidence that it's given that team sort of towards the end of the game that we've actually got a lead to defend, not just a game to defend. So, it was good to see, and I think, I'm not sure what your thoughts are, Tom, but, my thoughts are if we were, when we saw the fixture list at the start of the season and, would you have taken 7 points playing Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal in the first 5 games of the season?
I think it's hard. Well,
I don't know.
It's very interesting because obviously Manchester United is held to a different standard across the league, both within our fan base, but the media and rivals. And you do look at it, and obviously the emotion we have towards the players, towards the club, is what it is. But you go through it fixture by fixture. Arsenal, okay, you'd back Arsenal to beat Manchester United given the situation between the two clubs. So it is what it is. But in fairness, Manchester United played very good. That was unanimous amongst the fan base. Okay, so we played very well against Arsenal, just one of those. The better team beat us. Then after that, Fulham, do you think Fulham get results at home. It was just one of those ones where we missed a penalty. I thought we performed okay. We're probably a slightly better team, but you get a draw. So a draw away in the English Premier League, it is what it is. A little bit disappointing, but big teams, I think maybe Liverpool got a draw there last season, or maybe Manchester City got a draw there last season. So pretty much on par with maybe Premier League expectation. Then after that, Burnley, a victory. Okay, albeit it came in dramatic circumstances, but Manchester are clearly the better team. After that, obviously the disappointment of Manchester City, it is what it is. But again, on paper, you would expect Manchester City in this situation to beat Manchester United at the Etihad. Then after this, maybe a bit of not a shock result, but maybe one you didn't bank on in terms of us beating Chelsea, a team that is supposedly far superior to Manchester United at the moment. So in regards to expectations, if you're a betting man at the start of the season, yes, it sounds bad, and probably the caveat in this, which we can't forget, is Grimsby. Grimsby did happen. We can't forget that. But in regards to the Premier League, again, it hasn't been great. We've won the same amount of games as Chelsea. No one says Chelsea have only won 2 games, same as Manchester United. We were above Manchester City for the last 24 hours. If they didn't,
we're still level on points.
We're ahead of them. So where we are after these first 5 games, yes, I would have liked one more win and maybe 4 or 5 more places up the table. But in reality, I think you take our emotion out of it. I wouldn't say it's better than what we think, but maybe it is a little bit better than what we think, given how our feelings when we did see this fixture list come out.
Definitely, Tom. Look, we're very judgmental as fans, especially Manchester United. And I think we call a spade, and we just like to see. I think the biggest thing that Manchester United fans call for is fight. And I think yourself. If United fight for a game, you don't have a problem. But when they give up on games, that's when the biggest issue with the fans come along. I just in this game today. Look, the first thing I looked at the lineup. I always question the lineup when it comes out, and we did have a big talking point about that. I'll put the lineup up just so we remember what the lineup was. We're still calling for the keeper to come back. The new keeper, Lamin's come in. Brian Deere never really had much to do, did he, in the game? I don't know. I can't even remember a save yet to make, to be honest with you. And then everyone was calling for Luke Shaw to be dropped. And but to Amron's credit, he just sticks with his players and he keeps going. You could probably pick apart the side, but obviously you got it right, because from the start of the off, mate, United were well and truly on the hunt to put in, and I think that was one thing we spoke about. They copped that much of a hit against City. They needed to come out and do something. Yeah,
I think so. I think we've always struggled away fixtures at City in recent history, So we lost 3-0 last season against them, So I think we need to, as fans, need to recognise that, those are tough games, and if we can take a win like we did today, I think capitalising on some big moments, I think having Maguire on for 250 games, I think, he just brought that extra grit into that mucky, gross game of weather. I think that really suited his type of game, scrappy players, and we're a team full of scrap at the moment, and so we kind of played in our element. So I think that team really excelled in poor conditions. If there was better conditions, I think we might have a different conversation. I think probably Chelsea maybe a bit more technical on the ball comparing the lineups, but I think the weather was probably our 14th man in that game.
I think we probably would have all been surprised when we saw that Yoro was dropped and Maguire was in. But I think it was a good call to make. Probably the physicality of Maguire at the back with De Ligt, but because of the conditions in the game, probably was the right call to make. And I know we were sort of on Saturday. We Friday or Saturday we were keen to see maybe Shaw sort of dropped, but manager stuck with him, and Shaw had a decent game, and I think Maguire leading the line through the middle leading the back line in the middle, and Khalil on the right was the right call to make, I think. Surprising enough. We weren't, but it wasn't something we were expecting, I guess.
Not only the personnel, like in regards to Maguire in for Yora and all these things, but I think also the approach, given the conditions now. Football has obviously moved towards a way of playing out from the back and sort of a build-up play. Not once. Every single time we had the ball in our defensive third, and especially going through Bayinde, we were launching it long. Now, I don't want to say, okay, we're turning into a Stoke and that's the way we should play. But sometimes in conditions like that, you don't want to be sort of, especially when confidence is low and the goalkeeper's maybe not quite at it, playing out from the back in those conditions, especially when a team like Chelsea can maybe sense a little bit of hesitancy in the way you're playing. So, the personnel may be suited, like Harry Maguire, sort of old school English sort of conditions. Okay, throw the big English centre back in there. But I also thought, and you look where the first goal came from. Lumping the ball forward, your big man sort of knocks it on for the quick little guy to get him behind. Suddenly, Chelsea down to 10 men. I'm not saying that was literally like the game plan from Ruben Amorim. But I just think the way everything worked out in that first 5 minutes, Manchester United, thankfully, took full advantage of it.
I guess is the game going back to maybe that long ball a bit more?
I think it's you even look at Pep Guardiola and the way they utilise Haaland. Like we think of Pep Guardiola and City and Barcelona and all these sort of great little footballers, of course. And football goes through trends, but I do think which was spoke about last week. I do think football is potentially, who knows, going to maybe go back in a direction of favour and physicality and a more direct style than what has been the last 10, 15 years.
I mean, it's good. You're backing your number 9. You're backing your striker. To hold that ball up and link up with the players coming through. Even Arteta at Arsenal, sort of, with the City game this morning, was playing a little bit more of a direct long ball up top as well. So I think as we see, more and more of the bigger teams are going for that big presence up front, maybe the game might gravitate back to that style of play, sort of, we might see it a little bit more, especially in the Premier League. I mean, overall though, the second half I was a little bit worried as soon as Cass got sent off, and
let's just talk about that for a sec, Elliot. Casemiro's send off. Look, when he got the yellow card was what, on the 23rd minute or something like that, 24th minute. Look, you can put it up two ways. Like if you've watched Casemiro over the last few years, seriously, ever since I think he got his first red. I was at the game. I think his first red card was the one where he put his hand around his neck, or it might have been the second one. Ever since then, you could just see referees after Casemiro all the time, and Casemiro, I think, can feel that as well. I personally don't think it's a yellow card, but I think he gave the the referee something to think about. Obviously, the second one, the red, like the yellow red. Yeah, I personally don't. I think it was soft, like seriously. But in saying that, he was holding him as well, so it probably makes it look worse.
But, I think just how he came down, it's like it looked like a rugby tackle, just in that moment. And I don't think VAR has the right to look at reviewing yellow cards. So in that moment, you gotta go to a rest call, and it looked pretty bad in the moment. And in the moment, it's a yellow card. I don't, looking back on it, I think probably looked at like it wasn't really more of it was more tippy tappy, but. I think in the moment, yellow card, it was just asking for trouble. That tackle was. It was just asking for it.
I do think that the type of yellow card, he doesn't. If that's a foul that Casemiro's committing for his first yellow card, I don't think the ref gives him a yellow card. Like I honestly don't. I don't think that if that's Casemiro's first challenge, he doesn't book him first yellow. I think Casemiro has put him. Unfortunately, he had that first yellow in the first half, and he's put himself in that position. And the manager's always going to give him that second yellow card for a challenge like that. But I don't think he booked him if it's the first yellow. I'm not sure if you agree.
Well, there's also Chelsea players. You have to imagine Chelsea players from the 3rd minute would have been in the referee's ear saying, "Now, even though it was a definite red, that's not a red card out. You've ruined the game, this and that." That's been in the referee's ear for 40 minutes. Suddenly goes, God, I need to get these Chelsea players back on side for them. Oh, here's a chance. And just not even to be critical of the referee in that. And usually I'm the first to be critical. But just that's how the mind does work sometimes. And I do think, look, he can have no complaints. Yeah, it's probably not a yellow card, but given the situation, he can't have any complaints. I think it was silly by Casemiro. And that's not to say, okay, get rid of him, he's no good sort of thing. It's the price you pay for the good that Casemiro does bring you. He's got to give you that occasionally. And it is what it is. Thankfully, this time it didn't come back to hurt us. And maybe going into later on in the show, looking ahead to the weekend, what we discussed last week in regards to maybe injuries, maybe helping team selection in terms of getting 1 or 2 players minutes here or there. Casemiro doesn't play against Brentford. How does that sort of change someone else's chances to get into the starting 11? So just thankfully, it didn't cost Manchester United because we could very well, Chelsea score 1 more goal. We'll be having a different discussion about Casemiro in the midfield.
Yeah. Look, I think we definitely took full advantage of Chelsea when they went down to 10 men. So, again, United stepped up and, well, not again, but as soon as they went down to 10 men, we were on the front foot. I think we were on the front foot from the start anyway.
What did you make, Adam, of when they went down, the goalkeeper gets sent off? And I understand that's extremely chaotic for a manager, Enzo Maresca.
Yeah.
You don't plan for that, any red card in the first couple of minutes. So I understand it's something you can't plan for. But God, he hit the panic button. He's made a sub, then he makes a sub.
It was terrible.
Same again, and then 10 minutes later he makes another sub.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, it just look. I don't know what the answer was. I don't know what the correct way to approach that is. But it just seemed like, okay, professional manager maybe should have a little bit more of an idea and sort of 1 or 2 things up his sleeve. But it just seemed so chaotic. And then 20 minutes later, Manchester United 2-0 up.
I'll be honest with you. I actually loved it. I loved it.
I loved it, but it was just weird.
No, I'm just saying, I love that part. As a Manchester United fan, I'm thinking, is he playing to us or what's he doing? But yeah, I just thought he went full on into panic mode. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I think what's his name came off because of the groin strain, but and he didn't want to risk him. But yeah, he turned the whole team upside down, didn't he? It was just, and you don't see that often, do you? Like a man, even okay, everyone's saying that we're 14th, we're 15th, we're a bottom of the table team. A team like Chelsea, with all the players they got, the team that was on should be able to handle us with 10 men. But they just fell apart. We went 2-0 up within 5. I think the 2 goals were within 5 minutes of each other. And it was going to look like we'll be scoring 4 or 5 here. But then I don't want to get too far into it, but yeah, Casemiro gets sent off and then it's a different situation, isn't it?
Yeah, well then we make our subs to try and dictate the game, and we straight Šeško off for Urgate, and then our target man is off the field, and then we do play very much cautious football for the rest of the game. From what I saw,
I hated that sub, the Urgate for Šeško. I hated it. You know why? Because I always like to see teams play with an outlet. And soon as he made that sub, Amarin made that sub, you've got a big man up top. It's 10v10. So all it's done is made the pitch a bit bigger. That's all it's done, really. Mm-hmm. So you want to try and defend that 2-0? Like, come on. It's still 10v10. If someone can explain to me by Urgate coming on made a massive difference, I don't know my football. I would rather have Šeško on there holding up the ball. It's still 10v10. Where we can still have an attacking option instead of going back into our shell.
I would have taken Ahmad off, and then I would have put Kobe in the middle there. Give Kobe that opportunity to shine and still give our 3 front forward players there. We know Kobe's got the legs and he can probably not come up and Urgate, but it's ironic that it's everything comes back to midfielders. Both our goals came from midfielders today. We got the red card in midfield. It's still drama in the midfield.
Yeah,
even if the game up 11.
Look, and I don't want to, go back on the topic of the manager's system and stuff like that. But I just think there's, the manager's got some. I guess he's still learning that part of, I guess, his system and his philosophy, at our club, because there's, I guess, he wants to keep his system intact as much as he can consistently. So the best way to do that was to take the striker off and bring on the midfielder, and cut out that outlet at the top because we're 2-0 up. But there's certainly sort of other ways that you could make that substitution. You could keep him on and bring Ahmed off for Kobe, and drop Kobe in and drop Mazraoui at right back and play with the back four. Which I do think when I'm looking at the game and how we set up defensively, that sometimes we do play or defend as a back four. With a block of four and a block of four, with teams to be Mazraoui drops at that right back, and Luke Shaw ends up being a narrow sort of left back, and we do play with a back four a little bit when we defend. So I think the manager's still learning that, and to take the big guy off where, Tom mentioned the long ball outlet was, I guess probably something that we were certainly doing a lot more in the first half, because of the conditions of the game. We take that out off, you saw sort of how much that flattened the team's, I guess, sort of momentum, if you like. And, and then there on in, we're pretty much letting Chelsea come at us. And like you said, Adam, it's 10v10 still. We're not a man down. The team's even, so we should still be able to go at them and attack. But we were for that last half an hour, we were very cautious, and we were happy to sit back and defend our lead. And
on the 10v10, just to interrupt you there, just on the 10v10, it's interesting because I mentioned earlier in terms of Maresca hitting the panic button, absolutely having no preparation for losing a man after 3 minutes. I also, and this is not a defensive Ruben Amorim, I would have kept Šeško on as well. I agree with what everyone would have done there. But the way I can sort of defend Amorim a little bit he can't prepare for that. So there's no way he has prepared any time in his career for that type of second half, being 2-0 up, playing 10v10. I just think 10v10 for the last 5 minutes chasing a game, okay, maybe that can happen. Maybe coaches will have some type of scenario. But 2-0 up 10v10 for 45 minutes, it's such a unique situation. I'm not saying he got it right in terms of what ultimately he did, we got over the line. But I just think it was such a weird, given also Manchester United's confidence in terms of how desperate we were. But I just think it's such a unique, as I said, Maresca's so unique for him to have to change everything after 3 minutes. But I think that second half of Ruben Amorim or any manager, it's such a weird scenario to sort of unfold or to plan for. It just never happens. When's the last time you saw 10v10 in the second half for 45 minutes? It just doesn't happen. And so I don't know, what formation do you go for in that, especially when you got a 2-0 lead? Well, what's more important, that third goal? A lot of us as Manchester United fans would say, yes, go for the throat and get that third goal and kill it off. I can see with the manager's job on the line, he's more worried about the Chelsea goal. And that's not a defensive Amorim, but I just think it was such a unique second half.
Yeah, but sometimes the best form of defense is attack, man. And I know the game's totally different to when we used to play and everything like that. And a lot of managers these days, they always take off their attackers, don't they? Look, they did it at Palmer. He did it at Palmer straight away and stuff like that. I just think we were on the front foot. I just don't think we just needed to do that. I would have given it a little bit of time. Let's just say give it a bit of time, at least maybe 15 minutes in, see how things are panning out. If you think we're still on top of the game and you want to make that sub, make it. I mean, I'm not the manager of Manchester United. No, I never will be. But just viewing the game the way I view it, that's what I would have done. Probably left him on 15 minutes in, 20 minutes in, then make that sub. I just thought we went defensive too quick, and we've seen how we play when we try and defend a game out. It's not our best forte, is it? So, Fortunately, they never scored till late in the game, but they did dominate the ball a lot.
And just allowed goal as well.
I'll bring up the. I haven't had a look at
He
these
was
stats.
very
but-
offside. That fellow was. Oh, yeah.
Bruno's goal. You're talking about? Or
No,
their-
Chelsea's.
For fun.
Chelsea's
So-
goal. For
Yeah.
Farley, yeah.
Yeah. So, look, at the end of when I had brought this up, it's like possession, they ended up with 59% of the ball. That's only because we sat back, I think. Total shots, 11. I was talking about it the other day. Like, Manchester United's had the most attempts on goal than any other team in the Premier League. And if you have a look at it, Liverpool ain't even on that top 4 or 5 list.
Top 5.
It just shows their top 5 list. It shows how clinical they are. You don't need to be in that list to be scoring goals or to even lead in the Premier League. So look, hopefully sooner rather than later, United start converting these goals and we're moving up the table well and truly very quick. And this pressure on Amarin certainly slows down quicker rather than later.
It definitely adds weight, though, to my. And again, it seems every time I get into a Manchester United discussion, I'm sort of really defending Ruben Amorim, and I'll do that for any Manchester United manager. It's the way I sort of do view it, but it does give you sort of not hope, but that it hasn't been that bad this season. Well, far better.
The fundamentals are there strong.
Okay, City was City, but City can do that. And to be fair, and again, not to praise possession stats, but it was the first time we've had more possession than Manchester City at the Etihad in God knows how long. We've got a deserved win against Chelsea, world champions, and I'm just thinking, if you can just fix that 1 or 2 goalkeeping issues at one end of the pitch, you get your striker start scoring goals. I'm thinking, hard start to the season on paper. Look, we have to go and now beat the Dross. When West Ham come to Old Trafford, we need to go beat them 3-0. I'll take a 1-0, you know what I mean? But we need to go and sort of put those teams to the sword when Bournemouth come. The last 2 times Bournemouth have been to Old Trafford, they've beaten us 3-0. Both times at Old Trafford. I just think those are the games. And Bournemouth are a good team, no disrespect to them. But when Bournemouth come to Old Trafford, okay, we need to go beat them. And I think our performances lean towards, I'm not one for stats, but at the end of the season, those stats like your XGs and whatever, the people who do follow the stats, they'll point to those and say they even out at the end of the season, and the teams with the better stats seem to be at the top of the table. At the moment, we do have the better stats. Again, that means nothing at the moment. We're not at the top of the table. But I do think if the performances stay the same, hopefully it does average out and things do look to improve.
Fundamentals are there, Tom. I absolutely agree. I think, and I do like. I think the difference in this game versus the other 4 this season is we were more clinical and we converted them shots into goals in that first 20 minutes, half an hour. And, but you even look back at the other games, we Donnarumma's making, good saves for City. Cunha's hit the post. Dorgo's hit the post in previous games.
Just add 2 points. Bruno Fernandes scores a penalty. Add 2 points to our table. Where are we sitting on the table? I'm just saying, again, not to say, okay, our season's fixed scoring a penalty, but I just think, you add that, and we're above Manchester City.
Yeah, I think we're near. The fundamentals are there, lads. I do think that. Yes, we can pick things apart every week, but and I think even the manager said in his press conference, before the game, yes, we're top of expected goals. Yes, we've got a lot of shots on goal and things like that. But at the end of the day, if we're not putting the ball in the net, we're not going to win football matches. So we need to be clear.
There's two things I want to touch on in the second half. In the second half, there was an incident from Enzo Fernández. I cannot believe that bloke wasn't sent off. Like, I've seen Casemiro come in with that or tread on a foot. Like, we've had one set tread on a foot. I can't even remember who that player was for Man United. It's trod on his foot, got sent off. Enzo Fernández goes halfway up Urgate's ankle and doesn't even get sent off. It's an absolute joke. That challenge was and the Chelsea players knew it because they all come running over going, there's nothing in it, there's nothing in it. But do you remember that challenge?
There was a few. There was the Enzo one, and he makes it. That seems to be just the player that he is. I'm sure if he was wearing a red shirt, would love it. Just in terms of, remember, Ando Herrera was a filthy player. But we loved it. And look, I hate Enzo Fernández. That's just been a Manchester United fan. But yeah, he should have gone. And I think from memory, I can't remember the replay, but I've seen the still images. Now, the still images always make it look worse. But I think Cucurella as well was a little bit lucky.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, look, it's one of those ones. It's just good to be in a situation where we're talking about the referee and it hasn't cost us. I think it's one of those ones where we think, okay, it wasn't quite at it, but our players didn't let it affect them. The players and the manager got over the line regardless, because there's going to be times this season where the referee goes in our favour. It just will. We won't say that it will, but we will get lucky decisions at times. But there will be times later in the season where it costs us, and we're going to be moaning on here for a week that the referees are against us. And maybe against us this week, but good teams find a way to win, and hopefully we've shown a sign of that.
I've got a question here from George. George, I'm going to bring it up. Is there a little bit of a concern that our best football comes when we were a man up and couldn't replicate it on an even playing field in terms of numbers?
I'd say, George, look at that first 3 minutes. I thought, well, brilliant. But I do know what it means. But, we can only beat them with 10 minutes. They're the rules. If you get a player sent off, and I know exactly what George means, but Chelsea had a player sent off. They're the rules. Deal with it. Manchester United could only go and beat them. And,
I think it's just a hard thing to really comment on, really, because that red card happened so early on in the game. Usually we're looking at red cards, typically 20 minutes onwards type of thing. So it's really hard to say, how concerned it is. I think United caused the issue for that red card to happen. So I think if we had that intensity there, obviously what I saw was Bruno pushed really nice into that D area there. And I think that's probably an area that we could probably utilize a little bit more if there was a slight change of formation. That there's always back to formation in a way, but if it's a 2-1, like a 2 defended CDMs and then a 1 attacking mid, I think Bruno really excels there, and that gives Kobe an opportunity. And I think having that 10 men allowed us to see that type of thing. It's there's more development that we can play in that way. But yeah, it's hard to say when you're playing 45 minutes with an extra man. Getting back to you, George. I think that's hard to really comment.
I think George is a good point that you make. I think what I saw after that red card is there was freedom, a bit more freedom in how we were able to operate and play, because there was, I guess, more space for us on the field. 11v11, I guess, is no surprise to us. That formation is quite rigid, and sort of how we set ourselves up and things like that. So, and the players, still seem to be adapting and figuring out that system. So I think, from my perspective, it probably is a show of concern slightly. However, that first 20 minutes, half an hour, but that first 20 minutes, half an hour every game, we've been the only difference between us winning and losing games is putting the ball in that first third of every game so far. So I do put it back down to our goal scorers actually scoring goals. The people that we brought in to score our goals to be clinical. And I think we're again having a different conversation here, probably.
Yeah, definitely. The other one I wanted to touch on was Reece James. How much space he had down that right hand side. That for me, he look. I know we turned over the ball a little bit later in the game, but Reece James in that game had so much space down that right hand side. I just felt that we weren't covering it enough. He has got a really good cross, and just consistently just put us under pressure all the time. I was worried about our keeper getting caught out at times, and especially late in that game, just before they scored, or I think he set it up too, didn't he, Reece James? The cross come in, and there was just it just didn't seem to. We just didn't seem to nullify that quick enough. I think that could be, what George is alluding to a little bit as well. We got to that 10v10, and we obviously went into our shell again, tried to defend the game out. We start panicking a lot. We give players too much space. And it's obviously extra space with 10v10. I just thought Reece James just thrived on it, and we didn't do well trying to nullify it.
We definitely didn't do well. Sorry, that just my only point on that. We definitely didn't do well. And obviously frustrating. I think there was one or two just basic ones of short corners in terms of just a set piece where you can go mark the player. But I just think in general, 11v10, 10v10, however you want to look at it, there's always a player that gets free. Whether it be your 6 is always picking up the ball for free, or your left wingers finding space, or your right winger. I just think this one, I agree, Manchester should have done more, especially sort of when Reece James entered the final third. But I think it's also maybe just a case of he was the player who was finding space. He was the Chelsea player who was able to get a little space. I think we would look at it on the other side and say Patrick Dorgu was finding a lot of space. And Chelsea fans would be asking the same question, why is he getting the space out there? So, look, I do agree, especially my frustration with Reece James was it seemed he was getting a lot of space off set pieces. Like they'll find him on free on throw-ins or those short corners in dangerous positions. I thought, well, okay, that has nothing to do with 10 men. You can go and mark a stationary figure. So definitely frustrating, but I'm sure Chelsea fans are having the same debate about on the other side how Patrick Dorgu was getting so much space down the left.
You can see the difference in profile of player that we've got on our left wing back versus our right wing back. I guess for the Chelsea game, and there was certainly not much happening on the left wing for Chelsea because you've got Mazraoui who's certainly more defensive minded, and I think Dorgu seems to be more attacking minded and things like that, and he's further up the field more often than what Mazraoui is. Now, whether that's a tactical thing that the manager set up or not, or whether it's just sort of the profile of play that we on our wing back, but certainly I guess we see more defensively. Defensively, Mazraoui versus Dorgu. What he brings is definitely more of an option from an attacking perspective. And just that, I thought Mazraoui had one of his normal textbook things where he's quite consistent. He defended well, and I think he covered De Ligt's maybe lack of pace at times quite well. Whereas I think Dorgu probably left Luke Shaw a bit short at times. And maybe with a fitter Chelsea team and Palmer, coming in off that right flank, we may have seen maybe Chelsea be a bit more clinical and and get and get one over on us if he was there. So, certainly agree.
Look, I think we've covered a lot here, but I want to touch on 3 players. It was massive relief let me tell you, it was massive relief when that full-time whistle went, that's for sure. I think it was the first time I've actually stood up and just given it the fist pump or something like that. We desperately needed those 3 points. They did show a lot of resilience. You could see Bruno, he was on the sideline trying to get keep his players up to speed and up to momentum and stuff like that. But there's 3 players I want to mention here. Mazraoui, De Ligt, and Mbeumo. Mate, it's great to see Mazraoui back. He's had a fantastic game. De Ligt was outstanding once again. I think very underrated. Like he's not in the social media all the time, or he's not mentioned a lot, De Ligt. But I just think he's with him and Maguire together, and I think I've said this on a few pods. I wouldn't mind seeing Maguire and De Ligt become a little bit of a team. Not that I think that will happen, but I just think De Ligt and Mbeumo, I've enjoyed every bit of Mbeumo. I just think his first sight is going forward. He doesn't mind dropping in, receiving the ball as well. He's got good pace going forward. And I think him and Šeško are really starting to maybe click a little bit together, even though we had Šeško just there for a half a game.
He's looking for him, isn't he? You're looking for him.
Yeah.
He's always looking for him in the box. I think Mazraoui needs to I guess, a permanent player in our 11. You can just see just what he brings from you know the quality that he's got, just the consistency and just the calmness to his game. And I think you said, Adam, you wouldn't play. People want play De Ligt and Maguire together, but why not? Why not?
I agree. I'm calling for it.
If the proof was in the pudding against Chelsea, they were pretty good. Yes, Maguire came on and played with De Ligt against City. Maybe that substitution choice was probably not the right one. But don't forget, I guess, as well, we got Licha that's, that the manager seems to be baiting us that he's sort of, he's just need to match us and he's going to be ready. Who's that? What's our strongest back three going to look like when we've got everyone back, when we've got everyone fit? Who are we going to play there? Because the manager's got five, six, maybe decent options there, and combinations. Who's he going to go with? That's what I'd like to know. I do think we missed that aggressiveness in our team, and having Licha back's just really going to be good for that. And I think playing Maguire, and playing De Ligt there, for certain games might be better, but then playing Maguire there and playing Euro there for other games might be better as well. There's some different combinations that will probably suit us based on, I guess, who the opponent is.
Yeah, I think having that diverse backline definitely helps, and I think. Side note, Mazraoui looked like he's been to Turkey and had a Turkish haircut. Like he looked like he had a fringe done and all that stuff. He looked like, but I've been raving about Mazraoui to Elliot all of last season and this year as well. I think he's just a great player, and he may be a player that may be able to slip into that midfield. Maybe give us a little bit of another option in there, because I think he can cover a lot of positions on the pitch. De Ligt, I think he's going to be in line for our next captaincy. I think when Bruno goes, probably in the next year, I think De Ligt's our leader. He's that strong force that's going to come in and put a solid effort in every single time. Did some great goal line clearances for us on today, and he just gets the job done. And I think, talking about our defenders, I think Yoro was the reason why Chelsea got the goal. He didn't contend for it. So obviously there's stuff happening on the training pitch that made Maguire make that pick. But I like that there's competition in that back line, because you got a young fella who wants to prove a spot against Maguire, who's got 250 caps against his name. That's a, skill levels. Obviously Yoro's at probably that higher level, but that that wisdom that Maguire brings at times as well, which is crazy to say about how, the story of Maguire saying about his wisdom right now. But,
you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just, that's the first time
how can we say that? But he has a wisdom of the game, which is so bizarre to say. But I think our defense is looking good. And as you said, Mbeumo, just every time he's hunting for that ball, he did a beautiful flick pass to Bruno in that first half. He just creates options all the time. If it's coming to him and he knows that he's got a pace, he'll put that effort in to run it in. But he knows that that you can see the play before him as well, and gives us opportunities to attack more, and then unleash Bruno, unleashing Bruno there. And we know how good as a passer he is, and getting the ball in to unlock Šeško and get some goals. So, I can't wait to see when Cunha plays a little bit more, injury free as well. There's some really exciting things about Man United. We hear all the negative stuff, from media and all this other stuff, but there's a lot of positives in our team at the moment, and we're building a foundation for a building. You got to let that concrete, set before we can actually build upon that stuff. And I still think that concrete's a little bit soft at the moment, but you can see that all happening well, and is all from these transfers that we've had in the last 2 seasons.
Very good.
Mind that analogy, Lou?
Yeah.
I will often come up with in the moment sayings that probably have never been uttered before, but they're quite poignant, I feel.
All right. Look, I think we've covered a lot here. I've got Dino in here. He wants us to talk a bit about the Garnacho new. Where is that? Garnacho's new song. I absolutely enjoyed every little minute of it. I did read something on the when that chant came on and he was warming up on the sideline. What do you call it? The manager was about to put him on apparently, and he just didn't want to throw him onto the pitch and put him into the mix. I thought, mate, I would have loved to see him just put him on for a couple of minutes. Let me tell you, I would have loved it.
I wouldn't have. I'm glad he didn't bring him on. Personally, I think he retracted the substitution because Farr called for a sub. He was injured, so he had to change, I guess, his tactics and bring someone else on. But I wouldn't have, because it was written in the stars for Garnacho to come on and equalise or score the winner. And
Stop
I just
listening
would
to
have
George.
Yeah, I mean, but that chant, I saw a video of it. It was brilliant.
Elliot was singing it. I FaceTimed Elliot Sunday morning, and he's singing it to me. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, and I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic."
All right, we'll end the pod there. But there's a couple of things I want to do in New South Wales and Queensland. Early kickoffs this weekend, which is fantastic for everyone. Everyone can get out to their pub. We've got Brisbane have got theirs on up at the Pig and Whistle, so it's a 9:30 kickoff for them. So anyone that's watching this, get up there to the Pig and Whistle with the Brisbane Supporters Club. A lot of expats up there. They do a lot of singing. It's an absolute fantastic atmosphere up there. It's a great venue, great supporters club. So they're a 9:30 kickoff up at the Pig and Whistle. And, of course, we've got the New South Wales Supporters Club. They've got theirs on at Scruffy Murphy's. There will be a good crowd there, so get in there early. Tom will be there and a fair few of the boys. So get out there, support the supporters clubs. If you're not a member of a supporters club and you watch the show, it's the best way to meet people. We're all collectors here, so we're talking about it before. It's the best way to get to know people and a good way to get into collecting and knowing people, what they collect and what they can give you and everything like that. So get out to your supporter clubs on the weekend and support them, because I've been a member of ours for a long time. Tom's been a member of his for a long time, and we've been mates for a long time, Tom and I, just through supporters clubs. Both clubs do a very, very good job, so I can't give both clubs more of a rap. So get out there. I know you two boys are going to the Pig and Whistle, so enjoy your evening there. And thank you, boys, for coming on. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Tom, again. I know you just finished yours, so don't forget to go and follow Hated Adored, Never Ignored. He's on Spotify. Tom's a great listen to on that podcast. Thank you, Elliot. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to all the Aussie podcasts, basically. We're all here just having a chat, and the boys have all got their handles on there, so go follow them on Instagram and YouTube. So thank you, boys. Thank you, Dino, for coming in. Into it, George as well. Dino, we're going to get him on the pod soon. He's sitting back for a little bit here. Yeah, he's coming on. He will.
He's itching, but he said, "I'll come on when there's a different host." He reckons.
What's his $5 to Dean for entry? All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. See you later.
Cheers, mate.
Everyone, lads.
See you, boys.